Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome all of you back to another Northerner reaction video. It's been way too long since I last been able to do one of these, so I thought if I'm going to be bothering to do any of these at all, then I better start with something pretty strong and something that I've kind of wanted to talk about for quite a long time now. Now, if you live in Britain, this is the sort of thing I'll probably have to explain, and I have to give plenty of context for those who are not from the UK, just to explain why. Throughout the 2010s, there's been, ever since a little known program called Benefit Street, which was a series that talked about the lives of people who lived on what was it called? Was it James Edward Street? I know it was a. I'll just do a quick. What was the? Oh, it was a two-part series. Well, it was a two-season show, and what was the name of the street? I know it was in Birmingham. So, the name was James Turner Street. That's it. So, it talked about the life of the people who lived on an estate on a street called James Turner Street, where it showcased that pretty much about 90% of the people on this street were unemployed, and it showcased their lives and how they get by with almost no money whatsoever. People squatting in very odd corners, rooms that I don't think any of us would have chose to live within an hour if we were paid for that sort of thing. And it started a gigantic discussion about the portrayal of people living below the breadline in Britain, across things like Question Time, on Newsnight. A lot of people use the term poverty porn because it was giving people the excuse to sort of be smug and look very happy towards those who were virtually starving and those who were beyond destitute and bankrupt. But ever since, because to be honest, the discussions about Benefit Street lasted about as long as the series did, which came out in 2014. But ever since then, there's been bootleg editions of stuff like Benefit Street, mostly on a channel called Channel 5, things called Life on the Dole, Benefits Britain. There's been a plethora of stuff like that. And I think what's interesting about... I need to go shut the window. There's some people drilling outside. I don't know why people choose to work on a Sunday, but then again, I guess you could say I'm doing the same. Okay, so there's been an explosion of channels of shows like this, which showcase a very interesting idea. The first is that people saw, probably executives up in Channel 5 or wherever else from other studios, thought there's quite a lot more people than we first realized, that people who are part of Britain's underclass are actually worth filming and taking a look at. The second is that so many people are more than happy to do it. More than enough people are happy to sign on to shows like this to showcase their lives of what it really is like to be hard up. And the thing with that is that the things used about poverty porn, all these discussions, they stopped round about the time Benefit Street finished, but absolutely nothing has been mentioned for literally any of the others, which is very interesting because this, in my opinion, shows like these undermine the very serious nature of how many people in this country not only are claiming stuff like universal credit, JSA, job seekers allowance, which costs the government far more than you might suspect, but also of just how visible people's lives are ruined by this by being unemployed, by living in poverty. And this is happening across thousands of homes all over the UK. In fact, it's not just in the UK, it's all over the world, people living this way, which leads me to wonder exactly what is the real intention of shows like these. Is it to showcase, is it to inform, or is it the darker side? Is it to entertain? Is it to make people like me, people like you who work? Is it to make us feel better? Is it so that we can sit in the comfort and security of a sofa in front of a television so we can point, laugh, and then clink our glasses, knowing that we're not going to be anything like these? Because that's the dark part about all this, is that what is the intention? What is it these people have set out to do? Now, believe me, ladies and gentlemen, because I know quite a lot about this process through like the laws and workings of television, is that there must have been people who were there's like a duty of care that has to be given to people who work on stuff like this, as well as the people they're filming. They have absolutely got to be made sure that they're not going to be like humiliated or the stuff like that. But unfortunately, there is only so much technically these sort of laws within like the workings of television, from studio executives and all the rest of them, all the way down to all the way up to probably those of director generals for entire channels, even on the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, etc. I mean, Love Island speaks to mind in terms of how many complaints they get and how much public attention is brought upon shows like Love Island. Even the Jeremy Kyle show, which is a show I've talked about quite a lot a few years ago, roundabout when the time when it was forced to be axed from television effective immediately. There's a very, very good 2-part documentary about the dark sides of the Jeremy Kyle show, which Channel 4 did a couple of months ago. And it's not just about the tragic death of Mr. Steve Diamond, but it also talks about previous guests who were on it, the very, very dark ways in which they actually force people to be on it, the way they force people to be angry, how people had to almost grovel just to get on the show to help people who were recovering from like heroin addiction, stuff like that. There is a plethora of problems, minefields about stuff like this, because what you have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, and that's probably why I would rather stick to doing like the sort of ideas for shows I would rather do fiction and stuff like that, is because this is the real world, ladies and gentlemen. People who live in poverty, people who live on the very fringes of society, they're people, they're human beings as well. And just to give you another little idea about what that, and besides their needs, they mean about as much as everybody else's. If you want to get a really good example of this, ladies and gentlemen, consider that legally, doctors have absolutely every single right to refuse the COVID-19 vaccination. They are legally held non-liable to accepting or saying no to the vaccine at all. And the reason why they have to do that is so that it's their choice as much as everybody else's, so that legally doctors and anybody else working for the NHS, for that matter, they are not legally higher in society than other working people, above or lower. They have as much a right to choose as everyone else's. And that even goes towards those who are unemployed. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, these are real people. That's the point I'm going to have to keep emphasizing. Their thoughts, their opinions, their everything else is about as valid as everybody else. We should start treating people like these as human beings first before anything else. And we understand that it wouldn't be the same for them as it would be for us. And I wouldn't exactly imagine we would be the sort of people who want to be in their position right now. I'm not saying, of course, that all unemployed people are the most ideal of characters, but what I am saying is that they are still human beings. And if they are worse off than other people, it is the result and not the cause of their way of life or the situation that they're in. That's so very basic ground rules out of the way. Let's start with the first episode of Skint. Now, what's interesting about this is that this is actually on the BBC. And I was originally going to do something from Channel 5 for this because I want to do like a compare and contrast. But you're going to see rather quickly, I would imagine, that the attitude differs greatly between how the BBC handle it and how the Channel 5 handle it. And I will do probably one from Channel 5 later. But again, I just want to consider how they do this. So let's do it.
Once upon a time, there were more pawnbrokers than pubs on the streets of Birmingham. Tom Griffin is following a well-trodden path.
Gone to the pawn shop to redeem some jewellery. We try not to lose it, but we've lost jewellery in the past.
Whose jewellery is it?
My girlfriend's. I've got none. It's all hers. I robbed it off her and I put it in. And I have to pay to get it out.
Someone hits mine.
She doesn't mind because she knows I don't just waste it. It's spent on the house and the children.
Dad.
So, be quiet.
And someone hits mine.
Tom is one of 7 million with no bank account and no access to credit. In this cash-only Britain, pawnbroking is once again on the rise, the fastest growing business in the world of finance. And all because so many people are skint.
Now, again, first thing you want to talk about is they use the word skint as opposed to being unemployed, on the brink of bankruptcy, impoverished. They use a very short, a very streetwise slang term for the term. And even you could tell by the presentation, it looks like what could be associated with doing like things like spray paint? Is it meant to be like leading towards like a criminal way of life or criminal sort of behavior? In fact, the way we could do this, and I don't technically know if I've got it in, well, it might be in my sociology dictionary, but we could certainly see if skint is actually featured here, because there probably would be something very similar, because I'm not entirely sure if there absolutely would be a very similar term, but we could certainly try. Okay, social area analysis, social anthropology, MK, slavery, skewness. Okay, no, so it's not featured in sociology. I probably wouldn't know exactly. Maybe it would be in my politics and international relations, so on. And also, I'll probably go into a little bit more about like the format of stuff like this. Siegfried, Single European Act, Social Capital, SK. SK, no, not featured there either. Okay, well, I'll probably just. Okay, I'll just search it up on Google just so it was a good try at the very least, because let's just try and do this anyway. Let's see. Skint, adjective, informal British, of having little or no money. So chiefly British. Okay, so it's slang term. So is the association that skint literally means that it's only used by people who are maybe less intelligent, or those who just use informal way of speaking as opposed to standard or proper English? Again, maybe I'm looking a bit too much into it when you put it like that, but that's the sort of thing you have to catch on, because it would set a standard as to what type of program this is marketed towards. So let's continue.
Traditional pawnbrokers will lend you cash for up to 6 months, taking mostly jewellery as security.
167.20 to collect.
How much of 67.20?
3 months ago, Tom borrowed £50, but now he's paying 67 to recover the gold.
How's that for you?
Getting it out? It's all right, but I know it'll be back in. That's the only problem. You know what I mean? It's always the way.
About a week.
Normally I'd buy her something when I'm here, but I haven't got it today to buy her, just to make up for putting it in. So, but I ain't got it today, so she'll have to wait till next time. Thanks very much, love. What's up?
You think it's a useful service they provide?
Yes, I do. Harvey and Thompson, definitely. I don't agree with places like cash converters, because they give you no leeway at all. You only get 28 days. Right, you can renew it and they give you another 28 days. But once them 28 days are up, you're stuffed. Take it out or lose it.
He may not like cash converters, but 500,000 people use them every week. As well as traditional pawnbroking, they're world leaders in the new field of buyback, taking nearly anything as security and giving you only 28 days to buy it back at a much higher price. The biggest franchise is owned by John Walker.
Well, this is Cash Converters King's Oath. We sell, we buy, we loan money, gold, silver, got a white goods section, we've got tools over the back end, garden equipment, you name it, we sell it. This is items that people have done on buyback, in other words, sold us with the option to repurchase after 28 days. Musical instruments, computers. We have about £48,000, as we term it, on the street in this area. What are you laughing at?
Mobile phones are one of the commonest ways of raising cash.
Like, I'll bring it on a Wednesday and I'll put it on for £10. And then I'll come back on the same week, which is the Friday, and then I'll buy it back, but I'll have to buy back for 17.
And it doesn't worry you about the £7 that you lose out?
Oh, no, because I get paid on Friday. Like, when I really run low on money, then it's just, there's just a few quid just to get my phone back, that's all.
I mean, the best I can do would be about £7, but that's only because I think you're going to come back in for it.
Yeah, go on then.
How long's the money got to last you that you get from?
To next week.
About 5, 7, yeah. And I'll see you in a few weeks.
Yeah. Alright, cheers.
Okay.
More then. What's that going to be spent on now then?
Food. That's it. Food and gas.
Now, I suppose it would be rather pedestrian to say at this point is that, looking at it like that, it almost seems like pawnbrokers. It almost seems like legalized crime in a sense that they'll rip you off if you want to buy it back, and that is even if new people want to buy that stuff in the first place. You could understand as well as I would that it kind of paints them out in a very bad light when they talk about it like that. But if that's what they do, then that's what they do. I mean, it is morally not right that they buy stuff as cheap as possible and then they'll sell you for like nearly double the price. And bearing in mind, from what we saw, I mean, just from what they saw already, these are just people who were probably already having to have no option but to sell their stuff anyway. So it's mostly robbing people who absolutely have no way of paying it back. So that's gonna drive them even further down the hole, and that is God damn it. It's almost like they're pimping them out for their benefits. That's like. That's fucked up. I've never had to pawn anything or use a pawn shop before, and I don't particularly think I will even consider going into one after this. Meanwhile,
Sarah, hey love.
Fun and games with this.
On toilet. Yeah.
Start this kitchen.
I know it's not at all, but they are.
Lovely. Wonderful. Thank you, because it keeps smiles to give me one. Cheers.
Poser.
But it does make you feel 10 times better when you got it back, I won't say that. Doesn't it, Thomas?
Does it?
Makes it feel better when you got them back, did you know?
Until they got back in.
Yeah. Do you miss?
Come on, you lot. Out the way.
The one that we found.
Get rugrats you are, I'm telling you.
Where's
Thomas,
Robbie
you'll
gone?
have to undo this.
So how much is still in there then?
Oh, God.
For me to get it out, it probably cost me about another 300. But in value altogether, it's probably worth about 2,000.
You're gonna have to.
You never get the value of it. You never do. Don't like being phoned.
Yeah, do you want to clap this down?
I want rid of the phone.
No.
Move.
Give me a picture.
Callum, Declan.
Mine's got all them cameras.
Feel better now.
10
times better. Nice. Right, 1, 2, 3. You want to go out the front? Go on then.
I suppose the only thing I just want to say about that kid, that last clip where they just show those kids and the family just playing in the garden, or just like on the grounds and stuff like that. You have to also understand that there is quite a lot of decision making that goes into what gets cut out and also what is left in. And I suppose the only reason why they try to do that is they're trying to show that at the very least, they're like, I don't know, the kids are happy and they're looked after and stuff like that, because it would be all too easy that for somebody probably living in that same building or that area of Birmingham, that somebody who knows Tom would just immediately like call social services, or unless of course there were very serious concerns. Because I've seen one episode on like another show like this where I reckon I'm not too sure if I would, but I wouldn't be surprised if like if they ever saw that, social services probably would have gotten involved. Because, but then again, you also have to wonder again, not just about the demographic, but what time of the day do you think stuff like this will be first broadcasted? Because I know that quite a lot of BBC One shows throughout the daytime are pretty pedestrian, and they're sort of marketed towards maybe like a slightly older audience, because you usually get like 30-minute slots during that time of day before the news comes on. So it makes you think exactly who and where and what exactly comes out of this sort of stuff. Now, it might not seem worthwhile mentioning, but it's a good reminder again, just about the workings of not just about what they're showing, but the workings, what goes into making this stuff.
Vernon Burgess is going to his local buyback store. In-Store Direct is a small, privately owned business. Mary Daly is the manager.
Yeah, I was just after Thursday if I could, Mary. Because it's a real good one. But I don't want to sell it to town. Because if I sell it in town, then I've lost my guitar, then I'd rather put it in here on the board back.
You know that you're going to get
when
it
I
back.
Get it back in a few weeks then, you know what I mean?
Okay, Vernon, that's no problem.
Okay, Mary.
Oh, it's a bit bashed there, my mate.
Oh. Oh, thanks a lot, Mary, that's sound.
All right then, Vernon.
See you again,
Have a good
okay.
day. See you.
Okay,
Pretty quick
See you
for
next
guitar.
week.
With the money in his pocket, Vernon heads for Birmingham's big issue office. His 10-year-old son in tow.
Come on, do this, mate.
And again, like I said, the reason why they probably had to blur his face out was because of his own protection. It could have also been that Vernon himself might have consulted about this sort of thing, because again, it's completely within their rights, as well as in the rights in terms of like duty of care within people who work for the BBC, that they've got to know exactly that if there are issues where if his identity was revealed, then they would be the ones to blame if things did happen afterwards as a result of influenced by the show itself. So that's kind of what it's protection, basically. That's what they've got to do it for.
So nice, yeah.
He's buying the latest edition. If he sells every one, he'll convert the £30 into 72.
As long as you're all right, mate?
Yeah.
Cool.
Same, well, thanks a lot.
Okay, mate. Pretty good cover, so you should do it.
It's a good cover this week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, lads. Thanks a lot. See you later.
See you later, Vern.
Same.
All the best, mate.
Girls and boys, come out to play. Don't forget to grab the biggest shoe today.
Bob Steele can make £15 a day busking in the city centre.
Well, loaded out of Pittsburgh, I'm rolling down that Eastern Seaboard. I got my diesel lined up and she's rolling like never before.
But it's a shaky business. There's always the risk of being moved
You
on.
just either keep it down or just move it further over there where you won't be affecting the traders.
Yeah,
okay. She was over there last.
Yeah, I played up there.
Oh god, the busking thing as well is. I know that in terms of like how busking is sort of seen in the eyes of the law, it's not really something that's like favoured on, because. Okay, I happen to know a little short story, or something that might fit into this, is that back in about the 1930s or 40s in London, is that the reason why you had to resort to things like busking or selling editions of papers that nobody would ever read, the reason why you had to resort to doing this is because of the laws about vagrancy. And I don't know whether it's well, I think the standards have changed somewhat, perhaps because of certain things about human rights and stuff like that. But if this was 90 years ago, and you begged to ask somebody for 5p in the street, the person could have every right to call a policeman and to get you 7 days locked up for begging. And the laws about vagrancy sort of do differ really considerably. If you do have accommodation, if you do have a place of residence somewhere, then you're not considered begging. But if you are just busking in the streets and you could easily be suspected of begging, specifically if the equipment you have is not useful, or it's clearly under very, very minute and rather crude. It can get you moved on, and you could get in trouble with the law very easily for that. And I think the standard nowadays is because, unless of course police or somebody from a private business or anywhere in a busy street, they see you doing that and it's disrupting their trade, or even just by standing outside. If you're just standing outside and disrupting them, then they could almost have the authority to do that as well. But it's not really something that greatly happens in stuff like this. And I would also bring up the idea of the only reason why they wanted to showcase bringing the police down at all is just to show that people who do busk in this manner are usually tempered by interference from the police. But there is also the possibility that they just did that just for dramatic applause, as opposed to this thing happening every single time. It's a difficult one to say because we have absolutely no evidence to suggest this happens, yes or no. But it does again showcase exactly the sort of problems again that people probably like Bob do have to come up against just to earn as little as they can. And it's been a very long time since I've seen plenty of people busking roundabouts in Newcastle over the last couple of years, well, many years to be honest. And I've never once seen any of them have any interference from the police whatsoever. So I don't know whether this is just because this is a pretty wide street as well. It's probably wider than Northumberland Street. So you have to wonder who exactly is this inconveniencing, including people who sell the big issue. And yeah.
In the past, didn't it?
Yeah.
To be honest, I didn't take any money.
Because as long as they can talk to their customers, that's the only problem.
Well, yeah, of course.
You know?
Yeah, of course.
All right, then.
I didn't think it was that loud anyway, but standing beside, standing behind the speakers, you can't always tell.
Yeah.
I could cover this week on the issue. Larness not a set. But some covers people like more than others sometimes. It just seems to you just get better covers than others like. I think it's a really good magazine. You always get something interested in it. Like racialism in prison. What magazine do you get on the shelves? What's going to tell you about racialism in prison? I mean, it is there, because I told you I've been to prison, right? And it is a lot of racialism. I've seen Rastas getting the dreadlocks ripped out and everything. Oh, thank you. I'm going to get me shopping now. I'm going to try and get a few things. I think I've had about £10 there, like. So I've got £10, but I've got to get some cheap food for me and my son, like. So I'm going to try and look down the discount stores. It's right down the bottom there. It's quite a walk, but,
I don't know why I bothered trying to do anything illegal at all.
What's that?
I said I don't know why I bother trying to do anything legal at all. I might as well just set up and play wherever and let them move me when they move me. At least if I do that, at least I'll make decent money while I'm standing there if I pick my own damn pitches. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go home. I'm going to go home and take it up with the council in the morning because I can't work like this. This is no way to make a living.
have to go to this shop because I can't really afford to shop at the other shops, really, honestly. Do you know? When I can get the same things here for next to nothing, they're still in date. So you're getting the same thing for your money, but cheaper. You have to budget when you've got, especially when you've got a child. So it was cheap for 29 pence. That's really cheap, that is, for tomatoes. You'd pay about 80 pence for them in the supermarket, look. And somebody's actually grew them, you know. Probably, so they're probably organic, like, and the 29p are, well, they are. They're nice and firm. They're not rotten or anything. I think I'll get him those because he likes a tree and he does like grapes, you know. I couldn't usually afford to buy them. They'd be about £2 or something. But like, my son does like grapes, and I can't usually afford to buy them, so I come here. And when I see the products like this, I pick him one. And he'll last him a couple of days, but I want him to get some fresh fruit because he's a fanatical footballer. He wants to be a footballer.
It's £5.12, please.
That's excellent, love. And then we've got a pound odd left.
15 on that, so it's 35. Yeah.
You know, like if you need the money quickly to get yourself out of problems or pay your bills and that, you've got a good buyback thing here where you can sell it. They give you a money against your equipment and then you can pay your bills and then collect it 28 days or extend it in 28 days. So it works conveniently for you.
I swear to God, it's not broke or nothing like that. It can just work. It's a 100 watt amp, it's 55 watt fit channel.
Okay.
Too old.
Too old. It's too old for us, that is.
Yeah.
But I'll have a look at your speakers,
yeah,
mate.
all right, then, that's right.
Kevin, why are you putting them on buyback?
Because I need some cash to last me to the end of the month. I can't get no cash off nowhere, but I know that I can sell my personal goods. I can get a little bit of money until I get my monthly money, and that's why I'm cashing because I can't go nowhere else for no money.
Does it get you down to?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's quite an emotional business as well as the rough and tumbles that we have in here and the abuse and it is quite emotional, like heart-wrenching.
It still happens though, but that's the thing. They can say that it's harsh and it's emotional and all that, but if they still do it, they still go to work, they still have to listen to people who are probably at the very end of the line. And again, when you pinpoint this towards very vulnerable people who you could tell obviously are like scared and nervous, is that it's almost easier than it sounds to take advantage of people like that, like just taking milk from a baby. Like sometimes there'll be people who just be lucky to take anything at all. And I've seen more than enough examples of this myself and how riled up and how upset people really do get over this sort of stuff. It's dreadful. It's absolutely dreadful. Because if there's one thing I can't, well, I'll mention it later just in case I have to, but let's keep going.
Bob's one of Mary's regulars. With busking not bringing in the money, he's forced to pawn the tool of his trade.
That's fine.
Exactly the same as. It's exactly the same as it was the last time you had it, unfortunately.
It is, yeah.
Well, I said unfortunately. I meant unfortunately. It's got to come back. Like I say, if people are paying you when they're supposed to.
Is it 120? Yeah.
Yes, please.
Did you have a box or something with you?
No.
Why are you putting it on buyback?
Because I didn't get paid some money that owes me, and I've got to pay some rent. So, unfortunately, it's got to go.
How much is your rent?
Well, I earn 120 actually, that's what I earn, so I haven't paid him for a couple of weeks, which is not uncommon, but normally I'll sort of pay him 1 week and then I don't pay him the next week, I go and get shopping and everything else, yeah?
We've got to the 29th, Robert, March.
No worries.
And it's going to cost you 156 to get back.
6, yes.
20, 40, 60, 80, 100. Nearly give you so much.
I'll keep it coming, I don't mind. As long as you don't have to pay interest on it.
I don't think they should need to come into shops like this. But if we didn't have shops like this, then I dread to think the circumstances, what would happen, what would the crime rate be like, what would, you know, so I really dread to think. But really, ideally, in an ideal world, in a perfect world, no, we shouldn't have to use shocks like this. We shouldn't have to be in debt.
Just walk in and sit down properly. Come on, don't be silly with me. Callum, yours is by Declan.
With 4 children and no job, Tom knows how to survive in the cash economy.
Can't go to banks. Loan sharks, who wants to go near them? They'll be kicking your door down for something else. So you keep away from people like that. I work here, there, and anywhere. I'm a scaffolder, roofer. Trade, like. But I'll go decorating, dig holes, I'll fill skips, empty skips. You know, it doesn't bother me. Work's work. And if I've got work, I'm supplying for my children. The sooner I get back into work, the sooner we get the money together. You know, so we can get all the jewellery out, buy more jewellery, and improve ourselves, and hopefully not have to put it back in.
Dad, didn't you say I'm washing?
I don't care who washes, and I don't care who dries, as long as it's bloody done.
Yeah, it's also going to be like hard. It's also going to be tough, especially on those who you can tell absolutely just by watching stuff like this that, you know what, they do care and they don't want to be in the position they're in, and because anybody probably maybe even middle class or even just normal working people would probably say that if they saw people like Tom who are living on benefits or JSA or whatever they call it, universal credit, they would automatically assume that people like Tom just did this out of choice. But that's absolutely not true whatsoever. And that's why you have to. I consider myself lucky. That's why I consider myself lucky that I am still in work and that I actively still look for work, because there's always something else out there, and all the rest of it. You don't have to like look tremendously hard, but you know, putting in the effort is like what it takes. And you can tell Tom wants to absolutely make the effort to do right by his family. Even what we saw with Vernon before is that he has, you understand, is that you've got to have responsibilities and you've got to look after those who will look after you.
Bob has a room in a hostel.
This is my home, my castle, my garret. I'm up here out the way. I've got the only room in the house that's got a water supply. I've got my little hot plate there. This is a sort of oven grill type thing. It's tiny, but you can put a couple of pork chops in there and they come out like a roast dinner. I've got my fridge freezer, which at the moment doesn't contain a great deal, and the microwave there.
He's got a heart condition, but his sickness benefit's been stopped. He's appealing.
I've been on sick benefit for a couple of years now, and I went for a medical, and a doctor at the medical decided that I was fit to work, which is a matter of dispute.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I don't know what happens if the appeal fails. I don't think it will, but the fact that there's a possibility is quite a worry, as you can imagine.
I'd imagine it is worth a lot of money, this. He'll kick himself if he does lose it, so I'm really hoping that he doesn't lose it. Hopefully he can come back in and get it back out.
It's absolutely freezing. Absolutely freezing. You feel a bit better after you got something warm inside you, you know. Well, if it wasn't for the big issue, I wouldn't be eating this sandwich. I wouldn't get by throughout the day. So thank heavens it's been invented, you know. Well, like, I'd rather do this than be a complete gyro junkie, like. I'd rather get up and try and do something to help the situation and get through it, like.
Whoa, that's shaking.
Those windshield wipers flapping time, but it's 11 hands trying with some baby song that drives.
Time's running out for Bob to buy his keyboard back.
Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose.
He's having to use his guitar, but it's not such a crowd puller.
Feeling good was easy long, but
How's it going then, Bob?
well, let's see. Oh dear. Certainly not good.
That's not even like
£4 so far.
What do you reckon?
As I say, I don't expect any miracles with a guitar, you know. I mean, I told you I was the world's worst guitarist, and I'm sure you've heard that for yourself now, so you can see why. I'm not looking for compliments or whatever, but it's a fact. But at the end of the day, you know, if I can come out with a keyboard, I can take considerably more.
In the past, before I ever did the big issue, you know, I might have had to go in the supermarket and take a block of cheese or something to get the food for the day, you know. It was really bad at one time. And I can remember being homeless umpteen times before the issue was about. And the times I went through homeless, you'd go around all the hostels trying to get into an hostel and they'd all be fully booked. And I remember the one night I spent my night on St Chad's doorstep, and the wonder I never died of exposure. The priest woke me up about 7 in the morning because he came out the door, and he brought me in and warmed me up, but I was absolutely on death's door.
That'll do me for the day. I am freezing and...
You got it's also, again, you have to bear in mind the misery which almost underlines every single thing else about what happens in situations like these. Because there'll be people who work rain or shine just to earn enough just to survive. And again, going back to just Bob for 1 second, is that you can tell even at Vernon's face that he looks like he's about to have he's about to break down and cry, because I believe him. I believe him when he says that, you know, he's absolutely felt like he was about to keel over, just because there were many times he had to just lie in somebody's doorway, and it's dreadful, yes. And then there's the degradation that works into somebody who knows that they probably should have. There's going to be something better to this, because right now this is their reality. This is what their life has turned out to be, and that's probably the hardest thing to swallow of all. Is that how did it go? How did it end up like this?
Ladies and gentlemen of Birmingham, eyes are going home. Have a good night.
I'm going home too. You've just made my day. This brown girl who wants to see a black girl in your bed her day. You're in a black shirt, yeah?
Be lucky, lady. Have a nice day. Oh, cold.
So, Bob, you've only made a 5.
Well,
what does that mean?
It means it's unlikely that I'll get the keyboard back now. It's unlikely, unless something unforeseen happens.
I mean, it is very, very, very cold, and you're shivering.
I am, yeah.
I mean, are you getting enough to eat? I mean,
well, it's not going to be good this week now, no. I've got about half a loaf of bread indoors, I suppose, so I can have toast. Just have a quick check round and make sure there's nothing lying around. No, I think we're set.
Oh, thanks a lot, Lord. Thanks a lot. See you later. So, I wonder I ain't got curvature of the spine with this heavy bag. I've had 11 nervous breakdowns. I've spent most of my adult life in hospitals and away from society. The big issue, I say the big issue really has helped me.
The other side of this business is what becomes of the stuff you can't afford to buy back. Cue the bargain hunters.
This is a foot massage, yeah? And I've been told it releases stress. But I'll try it first. If it's too tickly, then I might not.
How do you feel?
At least it gives me a laugh. Ticklish.
You pleased with it?
Yeah, very. It's wonderful. Nearly new bike for half the price, so I'm very happy. See ya.
I have one little gold bar, which is
whoa.
weighs 1 kilo, and it's 999.9 proof, and it has all the necessary stamps on from Switzerland.
Approximate value?
£6,800, and currently that we have loaned £5,000 on.
And what did you loan the £5,000 for?
A gentleman who comes in quite frequently, and we classify him as a professional gambler. But we know that he had a bet on the Beagle landing on Mars, and unfortunately that hasn't been proven. Everybody says it has, but it hasn't been seen, and therefore the bet he had has not been paid out.
I've said it many times before, ladies and gentlemen, that being smug is never a good look. And when they classify him as a professional gambler, you have to also probably take into consideration that they know fine well that this is someone who will pay out whatever they have. And I don't understand. I don't necessarily agree with all of this. I don't agree with the idea that non-fiction stuff has to always portray somebody as a villain or somebody as smug or anything like that. Because financially, yes, you would be very lenient to say that that is the case because of the way they talk and the way they label people and stuff like that. But I think like the reality is a little bit more complicated than that. It's the editors. It's the editors are the ones who really like make the show, because how do you write a story with no script? This is how you do it.
Bob's heard from the benefits office.
At last, that's the support, that's the form that I've been waiting for, but it's not what I was expecting by the looks of it. Oh, where's my glasses? I don't understand what they're messing me about at. I mean...
The SS?
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious that I'm not well. I mean, if there's nothing wrong with me, why have I had 2 heart attacks? Why do I get angina pains? Why can't I breathe if I turn round sharpish? I mean, I put my flipping shirt on this morning and out of breath put my shirt on. And they tell me there's nothing wrong with me. I mean, they're having a laugh, aren't they? I think I need to talk to them about this one.
Robert put it on buyback. He got £120 for it. It's £156 to buy back. And it's £36 to renew it, and he hasn't got much time left at the moment to come and collect it or to renew the item. If he doesn't call me or if he doesn't come in with the next day, he's got to lose it. He's got to.
Vernon and his son get £800 a month in benefits. Sounds a lot, but the pressure's always on.
And I had a big bag of beef like that, a huge bag of it. I had a packet of bacon and a tray of sirloin steak, and there's a tray of chicken as well. Give me a tray of chicken he gave me. And it was all for £1. He gave it me in Erdington on the Oyster, all for £1. The last 3 Saturdays now, the butcher sorted me out for £1. Like £25–30 worth of meat for helping him out, Lord.
Every week, more than 2 million people get a visit from a doorstep lender. Some are legitimate, others loan sharks. but they all impose hefty charges.
No, I'd rather pay it. I want to
get solicitors.
I want to pay it. I'm doing honestly, I want to pay it. Okay, mate. Thanks a lot.
What was that then?
Like, we had some money to get him some clothes because Social Security refused us that clothes grant. Right, I'm explaining they've got to come on a pay day or something because by Friday night I'm broke. You heard what he said, he's going to get a solicitor. And, do you know what I mean?
Who are these?
Double the bill, they said. It would double the amount. They pry on people with no money. And it's £154 I got to pay left out of 300 and something. So I've paid about £140 back. But it's little things like that that's taking all my money. Do you know? But what can you do?
At the benefits office, Bob's had some news.
We're in business.
He hasn't had his benefits restored.
£218.50.
But he's received an emergency payment. With just 2 hours to go before he loses his keep.
I know they're trying to like pump up the music there and seem like everything's all jolly and all that, but do you not know exactly how dire a situation must be if you have to receive an emergency payment? It's nowhere near as jolly as they're trying to make it out to be. Again, these are the sort of things I know very, very well. You can't just get an emergency payment just because you go and ask for it. There are very hard procedures that decision makers and the case you've got to bring in about the severity of if you're like for like health benefits and stuff like that. It's far more complicated than they're trying to make out. And also the thing before about like loan sharks and all that, about people just coming to the door. These are people who are unemployed. I mean, this is why you don't take up gambling. This is why you don't run up huge debts in your name. This is why you got to know exactly what you're getting into when stuff like that happens.
Keyboard, he knows exactly what to do with the money.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
I wanted to see if I could put them on the board back there. Get him back and look, they are there. They are.
Okay.
They've got the books.
Is that max paying?
£10.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah. It's going to cost you $13 to get back.
Oh, no problem there.
Okay, and you've got till the 25th of May.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, mate. People like Vernon, you know, who you want to try and help, you know, going through difficult times. You want to try and help him, advise him and do the best for him, really, you know. Definitely not here to rip him off, here to help him, you know, and if we can help and let him sort himself out, you know, his finances and, you know, all the better for me, really. I'd be really happy if that happened. Hi, Robert.
Mary,
You all right,
I'm sorry
mate?
to muck you about like this.
No problem. What's
I'm mucking
happening?
about even more now. I haven't got me with a paper. Can we do it without that?
No problem. Are you extending or?
I'm getting it back. I'm buying back.
You buying back?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, that's fine.
By the skin of my teeth, yes. And that's 125. I can eat.
Yeah. There's some left over.
Is that Vernon behind him?
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Just made me so happy. I was giving him sort of 5 o'clock deadline today to come and get it back or extend the keyboard, and he's got it back out. Absolutely delighted, yeah. It's made my day, actually.
They're not taking up for a living, are they? Yeah, possibly.
It's the ice on the cake today. The day's nearly over. It's good.
It's a big one, isn't
It's a big one, that is.
It's quite a nice little board, actually.
Next week on Skint, Tom and Tara have a bit of bother.
What was it like when you saw those coppers coming in and they were...
Scared the shit out of me.
We didn't know what the bloody hell was happening.
What the f*** have I done?
Book on British pottery marks.
Vernon goes into the antiques trade.
It might be Queen Anne or something. It looks like Queen Anne or something to me.
Bob's got another money-making scheme. If he can make the equipment work.
That's more like it.
2006, and that must have been like for the Vegas of Doctor Who. Okay, so I didn't necessarily know myself that it would be like a multi-part series, so that's kind of interesting that it'll give you like an incentive just to keep going. The only thing I kind of like just want to say just before we continue going through this, if people want me to like go through the rest of the series, please make sure to let me know, because it was interesting to watch it. I did kind of, you do feel bad for Rob and for Vernon, because you can understand exactly, well, for those who've been there, will know exactly sort of what it is they're going through. And bearing in mind, again, the reason why they show next time and is the emphasis there is that it doesn't just end today. Their money problems don't just end after one good day. Things could go from good to catastrophic the next. And sometimes you got to take, your victories where they are, but it doesn't really. I don't genuinely understand exactly what the problem really was with like why Rob's like health conditions was health benefits was stopped. That's probably probably maybe by today's standards that sort of thing would change, and I don't know necessarily exactly how stringent the demands were back in 2006. But that sets the precedent for exactly how bad things can get in an instant. The only other thing I kind of like want to say right now is that you see the format of this works pretty often, is that they'll take 3 people and then they'll cut back and forth between them for the rest of the show. But the immediate thing you can point out to stuff like this is that the situation for all of them is not pleasant. Nobody really wants to be in their situation right now. And moreover, you can tell, certainly by people who've seen this experience firsthand, not just who've been through it, but people who've seen this happen to quite good people. And you see how their lives get turned upside down. But the final thing I kind of like wanted to point out just before we go is that, again, the format and the presentation does vary in terms of like what people genuinely think, or even because again, the idea. I'll go through an example from one from Channel 5 in a couple of days' time, because the attitude swings very far back and forth between years and different times and stuff like that. But I certainly hope that things will turn out for that. I'll probably come back and see what happens next. So make sure to come back for that in time. So I hope all of you guys have enjoyed the first episode of Skint, and I will look forward to all of you guys again in the next video. Take care, and bye-bye for now.